read about it in the books. This is deep, deep, deep. The master, the creator, is giving us a lot to think about. But whether to say this character's a bad character, come on, he's hilarious. Yeah, so maybe you didn't like him in this story, but George loved him. If you didn't think he was funny, somebody thought he was funny. There's a lot of people that think Jar Jar is funny. A lot of people love Jar Jar. So get over it. Get over yourself, man. I don't want to make it personal. But come on, man. You're going to trash Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar is one of the greatest characters ever created. Jar Jar is possibly more well-known than Coca-Cola. Come on, man. Everybody knows who Jar Jar is. Look, and all credit goes to those other ones, those other movie makers, and made all those other Disney movies and all that. You know, great. We all know those aren't real Star Wars movies. We all know those are fake. Great. Whatever, man. They did their best. They tried their best. They're fake. They're not even real. Whatever. Nobody cares about BB-8. Nobody cares about Rey. Nobody cares about any of these characters. Nobody cares. They'd rather read the books. They'd rather read the comics. And they'd rather watch the original trilogy. And they'd rather watch the prequel trilogy. They'd rather watch the original holiday special. And they'd rather watch the original Clone Wars. Nobody cares about Disney, Star Wars movies. They don't care about episode 7, 8, and 9. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about it. They all paid money to go see it. Now they're done. They're done. Nobody cares about it. No. That's the difference between the real director like George Lucas and these other directors that masquerade possibly as directors, real directors or not. But, man, they're directors. But come on. The quality of their Star Wars movies is not to the quality of the Lucas movies. The quality of these directors' movies is not to the quality of the real master of this universe. It's just not the same. It's literally a fake Star Wars. And I'm not trashing the quality of the work as a technical quality or as effort put into it. And I'm not trashing anyone's intent to make a positive, uplifting movie that helps motivate people and entertain, as well as make some money so they can keep making more of these. I'm not putting these people down for doing good work like that. I'm simply saying nobody cares about these movies as serious Star Wars movies because they're not. They're fake. Not as to whether or not they're trash. As I said, technically, they're really good movies. Come on, man. Nobody cares about BB-8. Everybody loves Jar Jar Binks. Get over it. And I don't want to make it personal, but come on, man. Nobody cares about all these other people. These Disney movies. Nobody cares about nothing Disney's doing. And George Lucas made these prequels absolutely, totally in control. He had every person around him saying, yes, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And you saw it. I watched the tapes. You watched the tapes. It's him and Steven Spielberg. He was showing him pictures of these droids he was going to use. He had practical sets, practical effects. Ahmed Best walking around in a suit on the set all the time with the actors, everyone. Jake Lloyd. Come on, man. That kid deserves an Oscar for his portrayal of Anakin Skywalker in these movies. Directed beautifully, perfectly. Yeah, maybe you didn't like the way it was directed, but it was the way George wanted it. Totally. Maybe you didn't like it the way George used his sound effects, and where he put the special effects in, where he wanted to use green screen and CGI to tell the story. What is that? So he's the director. You go make your own movie. Yeah, Disney made their own movies. How'd that work out? Yeah, we all know how those worked out. Look at it. Look at it. Trash, man. And I'm not putting anybody down personally for putting in good work, but it's garbage. It's not real. Yeah, it's quality work in the sense of it being technically, it's done with technical care, and it's also done with heartfelt passion and good intent. And that is not the part of it trashing. What I'm saying is it's fake, and it's pretty much garbage. So, if you want to watch it, I highly recommend that you just get it on Blu-ray and watch it at home or whatever. But I was able to watch all these movies in the theater, and let me tell you, it does not compare to a real Star Wars movie, a real Lucas movie. the prequels, you have the original trilogy, and then you have the prequels. The prequels is the realest Star Wars you're ever going to get. The prequels is the most pure, most Lucas, most Star Wars you'll ever get. And you have all the characters, you meet them all. As we said, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn, the teacher, C-3PO, R2-D2, Darth Sidious, a.k.a. the Emperor, Chancellor, a.k.a. Senator Palpatine, Padme Amidala, Anakin Skywalker, as we said. Jabba the Hutt. We have so many references to the original trilogy, directorial choices in the writing, and it's how people enter a room, the framing of the picture. Just take a look, for instance, at Anakin Skywalker's house with his mom, Shmi Skywalker, and as they're coming home after the sandstorm starts kicking up after they make the deal there at Watto's place to buy another classic character, Watto. Watto's an all-time classic character, man. This guy's straight out of Taxi. This guy's fantastic. Watto, I love him. He's one of the funniest characters and consequential characters in movie history. Very well played here. We got to get the name of the actor on that one, but a great job by Watto, by this actor playing Watto. And he's the store owner that is also the owner of Anakin Skywalker and his mother. Anakin's brother, Shmi Skywalker, and he's their owner and their slaves. And they work for him here also at this parts store. It's a classic character. And so after the storm, and this is of course also when we meet Jar Jar, as he causes some problems there. Again, he's annoying and hilarious. And so Bulba. And then they go into the house there where Anakin lives, and they're shivering there, and as Anakin enters the door, you see him shiver. And it's such just a normal human moment. And I know for a fact, well, I'm 99% sure for a fact that George told him to come in the door and shiver like that. And if not, and if he did, and Jack, either way, in either case, whether Jake came up with that or George told him to do it and Jake did it, it's amazingly carried out and performed, filmed and caught on camera for the entire world to watch forever, as long as it's preserved. And I highly recommend you to watch that scene alone, not to mention the rest of that scene as it's played out, as they all sit down for a meal at the home there of Anakin Skywalker, Shmi Skywalker. And here we see is Padme Amidala, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jar Jar Binks. And then, of course, we get R2-D2's there, and then we meet C-3PO. But it's such a beautiful human moment in this epic story of what is eventually going to be war and love and tragedy, and beautifully directed, beautifully told by George. Every actor did a great job. Again, I say that Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar for Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas, an all-time epic masterpiece. The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas, producer Rick McCallum, executive producer George Lucas, an all-time epic masterpiece. All-time. The Phantom Menace, George Lucas. Fantastic job, great director, in my opinion. He's great at what he does. Yeah, if you don't like it, make your own movies. You can trash George all you want. You can trash the prequels all you want, but it comes right down to it. Yeah, he made them, and they're beautifully made. They're what he wanted, and if you don't like them, great. If you don't like them to the point where you can't stand looking at them, super, stop looking at them. But to sit here and trash George personally, and trash his skills as a director. Hey, look, man, I'll take a J.J. Abrams as a director. But come on. I'm not even going to get into that. You can't, there's no comparison, man. Star Wars under George Lucas is all-time Star Wars. Star Wars under any other group or entity or mind or creator is simply not Star Wars, and that's all there is to it. That's just all there is to it. So, if George is the director, and we're grading George, and we're using the prequels to grade George on whether or not George is a good director or George is a bad director, is George a good writer or is George a bad writer? I would say George is a good director and George is a good writer. Whether or not you think he's a great director and a great writer, I wouldn't argue that yet, but I would argue that the prequels are great. And I would argue that everything in the prequels is great. And all of his directorial choices in the prequels were almost nearly perfect. But the movies aren't perfect, the prequels aren't perfect, I grant you that, I know that, of course they're not perfect. And also they're just movies and it's all fake, none of it's real. The special effects are used to tell a story. And it's all about the stories. And if you don't tell a quality story, then you're missing the point as the director. And if you're not seeing the story because you didn't like the directorial choices, then great. I mean, hey man, that's your choice. And possibly that's the choice of the director, and maybe the director's turning off a lot of people that may potentially want to follow the art of that director's art. And whatever, man. George wants to make the kind of movies he's making. He made them. He made them 3 times, and then he made them 3 times, for real this time. George Lucas changed the world twice. Man, I'm telling you, the prequels, nobody saw that coming. Well, a lot of people did. George possibly did. Is George Lucas a good director or a bad director in the prequels? I would say he's a good director. Are the prequels good? I would say the prequels are great. Are the prequels perfect? Of course not. Nothing's perfect. Nobody is perfect. Do the best you can. The prequels are great. The prequels are better than the original trilogy. The prequels make the original trilogy better. And yes, again, I'll say it. The prequels are better than the original trilogy. In the Star Wars prequels, it is the real Star Wars, the realist Star Wars. The OT is the real Star Wars. The prequels is the real Star Wars. The original Clone Wars, the original Clone Wars is the real Star Wars. And as far as I'm concerned, the holiday special is the real Star Wars, the original holiday special. But this is what we're looking at today, is George Lucas a good director in the prequels? Yes, I would say absolutely. And I would say even the amount of work and care and thought and attention and purpose and love and passion he put into blood and sweat and tears he put into these movies, yeah, I would say he shows himself to be a great director. And I'd say all of his directorial choices in this movie, every movie, especially The Phantom Menace. If you look at The Phantom Menace as an example of where George got everything he wanted, and the characters as he wanted them, everyone's placed perfectly. Everyone says just what he wants them to say. Like, you look at a character like Jar Jar Binks. His character, yes, he's silly, he's annoying, and he is Gilligan. But he's not dumb, he's not stupid. He's very intelligent, he's insightful, and he provides a lot of exposition through questions that he asks in intelligent ways, in a way that shows that he's thinking about these ideas and contending with all the uncertainties as well as fears and possibly exuberant hopes, and he sees an vision of seeing adventure, but he's scared. In many ways, he's like a kid, but he's a very intelligent character. He provides insight into the world of the every person, in our time, in our mind, and in the world of that time. We meet the Gungans, and then we meet the Naboo, and these are the people that live on this planet, and then the amphibious creatures that live under the water on this planet. And we see two cultures meet each other and what this looks like, and through the eyes this character, Jar Jar Binks, who's, oh yes, annoying, yes, jarring, funny, but also he's curious. He asks a lot of questions. It's the first time two cultures are meeting on this planet. Two people. Neither of them have a love for or liking for the other, and they fear the other in many ways. But now here they're finally meeting one person on one another, meeting Jar Jar Binks and Padme Amidala. And then we know AKA Queen Amidala later. And then of course the whole trilogy, the prequel trilogy, is love. It's war and love and tragedy. But it's all about redemption. And it's a story of fathers and sons, and mothers and sons, and loves and lovers, and war and loss, and intrigue and manipulation and lies and backstabbing. But it is a story of deep meaning and of great importance to George. And then, of course, he sold it. And now it's in the hands of someone else, another group, or whatever. But this is not to lament the loss of George. No, and what we're saying here is George, by any definition, is a good director. George in the prequels shows greatness. And I would dare say he's a great director. I will say that. In the prequels, George is a great director. Written, directed by George Lucas. The Phantom Menace. This is George Lucas, man. Everything he wanted. The characters written the way he wanted them. And all the stories that are told here. Episodes 1, 2, and 3. Tell one story, and that is the story of Anakin Skywalker. And how Anakin is in many ways an anomaly, but also based on myths and in some cases legends, but myths and these stories of one without a father and the virgin birth and so on and so forth. And George tells the story in a world that is sci-fi, yet very grounded in a reality where we live, where people work and there's technology and mechanics and yes, droids, robots, androids, politics. There's a lot of politics in the prequels. George puts this in the prequels on purpose. He is telling a story of a world that takes place in a world. He's telling a story of people within a world. And to show us this world, he immerses us into the politics of this world. And this is by his choice, by his design. Does this mean George is a bad director because he put a lot of politics in the prequels? Come on, man. No, that doesn't mean George is a bad director because he put a lot of politics in the prequels, which you may or may not have liked. I love the politics of the prequels. Does that mean I like bad dialogue? No. But I think the prequels are great. I say the prequels are better than the original trilogy, and I'd say the prequels make the original trilogy better. And George wanted a lot of politics in the prequels, so he put a lot of politics in the prequels. And we've got a lot. The opening title of The Phantom Menace starts with a dispatch, a secret mission by the Supreme Chancellor. And it's a blockade, trade disputes, taxation of trade routes. This is a lot of stuff to look at. Read politics and blah, 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 blah. But George, is he a bad director for introducing us to this world and creating a title crawl, the introductory remarks as he wanted them to be? Is he a bad director? Because was there anything confusing about that? No. And all of that was very clear. George lays out the world in which we're about to be dropped, literally. Just dropped into each episode as he does. And interestingly, in episode 4, and these movies were on amazing. So you'll see the rhyming in these movies with the OT. And this is done brilliantly. You'll see this, and the more you watch it, just on a one-time watch through any of the trilogies. If you watch the original trilogy first, as I did growing up, saw the original in the theaters, and I'll give away my age here. I was 10 years old when I saw that movie in 1977, and I'll leave it at that. But it was the greatest thing I ever saw, and that was the first time I ever wanted to be any person that I'd ever seen on a screen before a movie screen. And of course, that person was Han Solo. I wanted to be Han Solo. This was amazing. I've never seen anything like this before. It changed my life forever. And throughout the years, I'd seen myself, imagined myself as different characters than many of the characters in Star Wars, including Jar Jar Binks. I love Jar Jar. And when Jar Jar came along, I said, that is a character I could really sink my teeth into, man. I love that character. Jar Jar Binks is one of the funniest characters I've ever seen in Star Wars. I love this character. He's hilarious, man. But not only that, he's intelligent, and he introduces us to a new world, a new culture. This is an underwater world now. In the original trilogy, we saw the cloud city above the planet, and now we see the water below the planet, so to speak. It's above the planet, but it's below the land. It's the water world. Here these amphibians. And Jar Jar Binks and orange amphibian. Long ears. Hilarious. One of the funniest characters we've ever had. Finally, also, we've never had an orange amphibian in Star Wars before. With long ears. Never had that. We finally have it now. He's hilarious, Jar Jar. Everybody loves him. Who doesn't love Jar Jar? Get with it, man. You got George Lucas, more brilliance. He shows his brilliance with these characters. They're ability to tell a story. And so, is George Lucas a bad director because he put a lot of politics in the prequels? Absolutely no. George is all the more displaying his greatness by putting the politics and laying it out up front, showing us this road, and then explaining it very clearly. George knows what he's doing. He did what he knows, and we got the result, the Phantom Menace, and it was great. And then we have, of course, Attack of the Clones. Not to mention in the Phantom Menace, we were introduced to Anakin Skywalker as the pilot. And this again is brilliantly told. And then we see to display both this and to give us something exciting to watch. And also George's love of cars and car racing. We have the epic pod race, legendary. The pod race and the pod racing is now a part of the Star Wars universe. Brilliant. Another directorial choice I regard as great. Who doesn't love watching that scene over and over and over again? It's fantastic. Great job. George Lucas, all-time epic masterpiece. The Phantom Menace. Written and directed by George Lucas. Produced by Rick McCallum. Executive produced by George Lucas. The Phantom Menace, an all-time epic masterpiece. So yeah, so far we got George at 10 out of 10. In both the opening title crawl, which was very clear. Was it the title crawl you liked? Possibly, maybe no, maybe yes. Was it the title crawl you wanted? Maybe no, maybe yes. Was it the title crawl he thought he should have used? Yes. So yeah, we got the one he wanted to use, and was it clear? Yes. Grammatically correct, absolutely. Was it a bit clunky? Somewhat. But was I confused about any of it, and was I bored with any of it? No, absolutely not. It worked perfectly, and I think it was great. It tells the story. It told the story. It helped us with the story, moved the story along. Great job, George Lucas. 10 out of 10. Next category. World building, writing, directing. How does George show us the politics of this world? Well, he shows